Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel where we mainly discuss thrillers on Thursdays. And now that all of my Japan vlogs are up, I just had a part 1 and part 2 video. It does feel a little weird sitting down and filming because I haven't done this in I think about a month, but I'm sure this is the same for many of you. But it's my favorite time of year, which is Halloween season, so the next 3 videos are all going to be Halloween themed, and I already have lots of Halloween videos. I have ones on my favorite horror novels, my favorite horror movies, why I love horror, all that stuff, so I wanted to do something a little bit different this year. So today we're going to be researching online what some people consider the scariest books ever written, and then my next video will be my Halloween apartment tour, which you can see some of here. And then the last video will be my 2018 horror TV shows, just reviewing all the ones that are out there. So if you have one you really want me to review, please comment it down below. I might already have it on my list, but if not, I'll add it. But getting back to today's video, like I was saying, I've already done videos on my favorite horror novels and ones that I would recommend for you guys. But I'll admit, even though I just finished the Haunting of Hill House book, which I absolutely loved, I've been struggling to figure out which horror novel to pick up next. And I was also just really curious to see what online people considered to be the scariest books of all time. So I thought I would go onto a bunch of websites. I could let you know what they say there, let you know which ones I've read and if I agree, and all of us can find new horror novels to read. So when I type in scariest books ever written, and it would be great if I knew how to share my screen and have it scrolling at the same time like a lot of YouTubers do, but I'm just not that high tech. But the first list that comes up is from Barnes & Noble, and it is 25 of the most terrifying horror books ever. So if you want to pull up it and scroll through it along with me, feel free. I'm not going to talk about every single book that I find on these lists because that would take hours. So it looks like these aren't in any particular order, so I'm just going to scroll through. But one of the first ones I see is House of Leaves, which I have read. I'm staring at it right now. And if you have a lot of hours free, I think House of Leaves is worth the hype. It's worth the investment. The idea of a house being bigger on the inside than it is on the outside is a lot more disturbing than you would think. And as weird as the book is, it really does just enthrall you in a way that no other book has for me. Next is Rosemary's Baby. Classic. I love Ira Levin. Next we see Haunting of Hill House. I'm kind of surprised, well maybe I should be surprised, but I've read a lot of these. Just finished that one and it posted my review, and I don't know why I was so surprised at how much I loved it, but it disturbed me a lot more than I thought, and I kind of liked that not everything was explained at the end. They have Lord of the Flies, which I cannot remember if I've read before, I'm gonna be honest. Maybe I did in middle school, but I remember seeing the movie and seeing the scene where, I don't think this is a spoiler, I'm just gonna say vaguely what happens, but a rock falls on a kid and crushes him, and it scarred me when I was little. We need to talk about Kevin. I have seen the movie, and the movie was so good. I think because I liked the movie so much, I have not really been interested in reading the book, even though I own it. But it's essentially a book about a mother who realizes her son is evil. But it's a really interesting and kind of realistic take on books or movies like The Bad Seed. So I highly recommend the movie, but I haven't read the book. Night Film, I've talked about a bunch of my channel, so I'm gonna skip talking about that. Oh, this is an interesting one, Ring. So maybe I knew this and I forgot. I did not realize Ring was a book. No, maybe I had always thought it was a Japanese movie and then America copied it, but I didn't realize, unless I forgot again, that it was a book. So I'm kind of intrigued by that, so I'm gonna definitely add Ring to my TBR. Then we have Pen Pal, which I've seen this one pop up a lot on different horror lists. I remember coming across this one all the time at the library, and for some reason I still have not read it. It says the narrator tells of being a young boy and sending a pen pal request attached to a balloon with his classmates, including his best friend Josh. He doesn't receive a response until nearly a year later, and his life takes a turn for the bizarre shortly afterwards. Ooh, this next one I also have not read, and that is Carrion Comfort. And it says that this novel follows several groups of people who have the ability, a psychic power that allows them to take control of others from a distance and force them to perform any action. Haven't heard anything about this one before, so that's really intriguing. And I'm skimming the rest of the list. I've read some of these like The Ruins and Bird Box. They're all great. So I'm gonna move on to another list. So this one is from Shortlist and it's called The 30 Scariest Books Ever Written. First is Rebecca, a classic written in 1938. I remember picking this one up all the time and being very interested in it when I was little. I just picture a woman standing outside a creepy house with lots of mist around her, but I've never actually read it before, so maybe that's a classic that I should be checking out. Let's see, they've got some classics on here: The Exorcist, Dracula, The Handmaid's Tale. Highly recommend even if you've already seen the show. The book is excellent. American Psycho. This is a lot like We Need to Talk About Kevin for me, in that I have seen the movie and really loved it, and therefore I just haven't been that interested in checking out the book. But please let me know if you've read American Psycho, if you've seen the movie. Do I still need to read the book? Do you think it's worth it? Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk. That's a horror novel? I remember seeing the trailer with that kid with blonde hair and I had no idea it was a horror novel, but maybe a lot of the book takes place during the war, which would be very disturbing. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised to see that one on there. Oh my god, The Witches! I probably read this when I was little and just don't remember, but I am definitely scarred from seeing the movie when I was little. And please let me know if when Angelica Houston loses her hair in the movie, if that scarred anybody else. I mean, was The Witches, the movie, meant for children? I don't know, but it terrified me. Okay, I'm gonna kind of skim through and just see if any catch my eye. So Hell House is popping up on Shortlist, and it was also on Barnes & Noble list. I just don't think I mentioned it in this video. But let's check out the blurb about this one because I've heard a lot about it, but at the same time, if you asked me to say anything about it besides it's about a haunted house, I would not be able to come up with anything. But it says Hell House concerns just that, a house that corrupts and destroys all that enter it. 4 people try to rid the house of its evil potency with violent consequences. So honestly, just from that, it sounds a lot like The Haunting of Hill House, but if any of you have read it, please let me know what you thought. Blindness is also on this list. It was also on the Barnes & Noble list. I think, again, this is becoming a theme. I've seen the movie and I thought the movie was wonderful. For those of you who don't know, from the title you can tell it's about a movie, a world where everybody goes blind, and the movie is incredibly disturbing and really well done and just makes you, especially some scenes, very uncomfortable. My friend read the book and she also said that the book was excellent. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is on here, and I will say, if you haven't seen the movie so you don't know the ending, because I do think this is a book where the mystery is what really makes the book, I do highly recommend checking out The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I think this was 100% worth the hype. I really got swept up in this. Couldn't get through book 2, so I never continued on, but I did really enjoy that one. Ooh! For those of you who don't know anything about this, I have seen parts of the movie. I remember seeing if I could find a version of it illegally like 10 years ago when I should not have been watching it. I don't even know how to describe this, but watching the movie was an uncomfortable trip. Lord of the Flies is also on here. Ooh, The Stranger, one of my favorite classics. I wouldn't necessarily call it horror. It's just about a man who one day decides to kill someone. I don't personally find it terrifying, but it is incredibly well written nonetheless, so I do recommend checking it out. Coraline, one of my favorite young adult novels. Is that, or I think it's middle grade, but highly recommend that one. I'm trying to find some here that I have not heard of before. That's really what I'm looking for. Okay, well that list is done. Didn't find any new ones personally for myself to check out, but let's check out Bustle's website, which this is 21 scary books that are more terrifying than any horror movie. But for this list, because I'm coming across a lot of books that I've already read, I'm just gonna scroll through and see if I don't recognize any of these titles so that maybe we all can find some underrated gems. So there's it, and next, I haven't heard of this one, Zombie by Joyce Carol Oates. So this says it was written in 1995 and it isn't like any other horror titles. The story here centers on the narrator who details in stream of consciousness style how he plans to create the perfect sex slave. That's not what I thought it would be about based on the title, but might be interesting. Let's see, I've heard they've got some classics on here. Ooh, what is this? White is for Witching. So this centers on a small motherless family whose daughter Mary is compelled to eat things that are not food. Ooh, have any of you read that one? Because I might add that to my list because that sounds pretty unique. Annihilation, I loved it. Ooh, so the next one is The Cipher, and this is a young woman's obsession with a dark hole in her apartment building pitches her boyfriend into a spiral of terror as the depths of that darkness begin to call him. This makes me think of that manga. I'm not gonna be able to remember what it's called, but it's where they're obsessed with spirals and spirals start eating people. It's very disturbing, so I might check that one out. Last but not he wanted to say last but not list because we're looking at so many lists. Last but not least, we're gonna check out Thrillist, and this is 7 terrifying horror novels that'll keep you up at night. So same method as the last one, just gonna scroll through and see if I don't recognize any of these. So they have House of Leaves, Reddit, Something Wicked This Way Comes, that's on my TBR, The Exorcist, Haunting of Hill House. Okay, I've heard of all of these. So this was a very anticlimactic list to end on, but I've definitely found some new horror novels that I want to check out that sound really unique. So while I'm editing this video, I'll probably go ahead and add them to my TBR, but please let me know, do you agree or disagree with some of these lists? What is the most terrifying horror novel that you have ever written? So I hope you guys are having a wonderful Halloween season, and I'll see you guys next Thursday.